Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's doing moderately well or decently well. I Today we're going to try to tackle Chris McLaughlin's interesting question. She says, would you speak about using the energy tools when we become more aware of the space between our thoughts and reactions? I'm interested in the grace that is bestowed upon us when this occurs. How to best honor and respect the occurrence and energy while allowing for a shift in focus and gentling of the personality. She goes on to have a second question, and I'll try to talk about it a little later. It's an interesting question. One of the difficulties in trying to make sense of things is recognizing that our natural, normal way of engaging with life, personality function, I won't say interferes, but tends to blend the words in a direction that relates directly to the personality's view of things. It is extremely valuable and, I would say, key to allow yourself to consider just watching how you function. This causes a dilemma. Watching how you function is restricted to what you can allow yourself to see. Meaning, movement inside the personality development or origins is quite slow. And here's the reason why. We've cultivated a form, a system. I have a cough drop in my mouth, so I apologize for that. A system that, in a way, is useful in engaging with life. It's our personality, how we talk to other people, how we represent this system, and the system represents us, and how we would like to be noticed or recognized in the world. It's difficult to perceive all of these finer elements within a personality construct. So one of the most ingenuitous ways to do it is just to see how you function, as if you're watching you. It's very strange. Even though the physical, emotional, and mental aspects and spiritual aspects, how you consider them to be, are all involved with a personality's overview, reflexive, very strongly reflexive, by the way, hardly ever noticed until after you say something, highly verbalized, and you're very fashionably respectful of it. And not for a second do you realize that other people are doing exactly the same thing. There's a kind of overlay in that engagement with being valued, or the fear of not being valued, or as you listen, there's a reflex that says, you must be right because this is what you've come up with. In fact, it's seldom right. I'm sorry about that, but it's partly how you are attempting to actually listen to what you think you're really right. How you believe, how you think, how you respond. You're already looking at that, but so reflexive that you're not really conscious of it. Hard to believe. Until later, as Chris comes up with her question, you begin to notice that there's a gap. There's not necessarily a very elongated pause, but certainly a gap. After you say something, you actually have a second or two to notice what you've said. And then consider whether you actually do believe in what you said. Normally the reflex is so fast you don't even consider that. You know that it must be right. And it is, unfortunately, primarily how everyone responds and engages in our world. Making that small little gap sometimes, as cumbersome as it might be, allows a second or two to engage with the frequency that is, or frequencies that are different than the personality frequencies that make you up. In other words, I would say, use a life map. Oh, what's that mean? Well, you're actually asking for help in a place where you already believe no help is needed, kind of. Because you've already decided that whatever you say is more valid than almost anybody else in what they can say. Well, this is not a negative thing. My goodness. Everyone on our planet has had these experiences all the time. Sometimes they're embarrassing. Sometimes they're abstractly correct. There's nothing that could be more right than that, whatever that was. And in doing this, we end up constructing, in our favor, of course, other aspects of intensity that evaluate and increasingly underline the importance of us out of fear that we won't be valued and aren't on these levels. But we are on other levels, and even on these levels sometimes. So Chris is bringing up a point about what happens if you actually are thinking of a higher state. And you can do the life map. It means two hands are turned on at a different level than what is normal for the hands. And you have some ways of doing that. And then you point them in a direction that you've noticed, an empty spot. In that empty spot, you point at what you might consider may not be as valuable as you often think. If you have an increased intensity in the physical body, in the emotional system, and your mental facility is buzzing around trying to find reasons why you validate those things and the intensity, not only do you notice that literally your physical body is very much involved within your personality. That sounds obvious, but not to some. But it has been coached and constantly, reflexively considered the core of our existence. Right in the womb, our system is so sensitive. It's almost like it becomes an ear. It responds. It cultivates an inner response emotionally to tones and sounds outside the form. And, of course, emotion in the person who is carrying this child. No negativity attached. This is everybody's engagement with life. But there on in, as you're out of the womb, you are engaging, trying to figure out what the heck to do in this environment. So your emphasis on what to do and how to be is directly focused on how things are going on the outside of the world. And you are responding, because you've learned how to respond, reflexively, not consciously, reflexively, and automatically, reflexively, to whatever happens around you, internally and externally. So as you mature, as you're beginning to mature, and this is not perfect because maturity is way, way up there. Depends on the definitions of whatever cultures you're in, and these are very physically focused definitions. As you begin to notice that you can ask for help from a higher state, that higher state is not you. It's an aspect of you. You love you the way you are. You anticipate that no greater love could be given other than the love that you give yourself, actually, without even knowing that that's what you're doing. You were created by that flow. That personality is created by that tremendous free engagement with energy as it operates in and through you for the purpose of you engaging and creating a personality, and then ultimately, at some stage in our personality development, cultivating as an awareness of not only how we are, and then moving to an approach towards some kind of maturity with respect to others and ourselves, but also in relationship to the energy that is there, in relation to a loving that is beyond our natural, normal response mechanism. And although not really if it comes in strong enough and you're not focused on yourself primarily, you'll notice something different. But that's another question. So in the response that you have and the engagement with that little space that you perceive as you're practicing watching how you function, not judging it, please, but recognizing it. Recognizing that this is something that is constructed and has been constructed in a manner that might theoretically be helpful to you in the process, in the movement that we call life. Then you begin to notice that there is a sense of gentling, a softening, sometimes even a relief, and a recognition that we're imperfect. For all of you who don't think you're imperfect, I apologize for the last sentence, but it's actually more true than what you're thinking. Sorry. Our nature on these planes, at these levels, is actually naturally focused on being valued within better than the other guy, or at least aligned with the other guy or gal, whatever, so that we find ourselves a place and a position of value that relates directly to a misunderstanding of what life is really about. Can't fault us for that. Not very much evidence out there that helps us understand this. But you get to the point where that sense of grace that Chris talks about becomes ever more clear. And there's something there that allows us to think that we are a part of that from time to time. At other times, we may still be a part of that, but we don't recognize it as much. Oh yeah, you can say, oh, I recognize it a lot because I notice it, blah, 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 blah. But that's our personality's defensive mechanism. And we need it. We can't be without it. But we need to know that we have it and recognize it's there. Inadvertently, let's say if we don't, we will still be a class act in the eyes of ourselves relative to our youthfulness and our need to be there because of the vulnerability we have internally and externally in relationship to all other people on the planet. 8 billion of us go through this stuff. Or, let's say, not many go through the idea of being willing to allow yourself to pay attention to how you interact on a daily basis, moment to moment, from time to time. Because I don't think it's easy for anyone to constantly view ourselves because, and this is valuable, we tend to criticize rather than view. This causes a lot of interaction that is not beneficial. If you're going to be a really good critic, and that goes for looking at others or yourself. See how you could do something different that might be helpful. If you think they're not doing it the right way, you'll come up with something. It won't be perfect, but you may think it is, because the pressure on you to protect yourself with respect to anything you come up with is a normal, natural piece of the nature of a human being at this point in their survival, in their engagement with life. Don't listen to me about it. Check it out yourself. You'll see it everywhere. Because it's the nature of trying to understand and what's necessary for our own relationship with life to be okay with us. And then as soon as you see it that way, then you understand that is in itself is a defense of ourselves for a purpose of being valued by ourselves. This is not so simple. But there is, without a doubt, a sense of gracefulness that can occur and does occur, be it just a short time or not. And I'm not talking about verbalizing to yourself in a way that you think gracefulness would be. It is a sense beyond the personality's makeup mechanism. It is truly valuable as it aligns with an aspect of a higher state. And in that creates a vibrational engagement that is different than you being right versus wrong. It is not the same. So it is a wonderful question. And she goes on, how to best honor and respect the occurrence and energy while allowing for a shift in focus. What I would, and gentling of the personality, what I would say, be respectful of yourself. Recognize you noticed it, and realize that as quick as you noticed it, as quick as you saw it, as quick as you felt it, you noticed that you were arguing for the value of you. It is a gift, an alignment gift. Recognize that it's there. At least you saw it once, or 10 times, or 150 times, or 2,000 times. The amount of times doesn't matter. The occurrence of it does. Your assessment of what it is, depending on your outlook in life, will be quick. Your assessment will not be perfect. If you have experienced that kind of energy once, it is of great value to you. Remember it the best you can from time to time. Know that it's there. It will help you to remember the value of it being there. And it will lean you towards, ever so slightly, the remembrance of it, that is, towards engaging again with it in a way that may be different than how you had it happen before. Because difference seems to be The personality, once it knows something, sees something, does something, it replicates or attempts to. It can't get it right, but it replicates, it attempts to. And that's what it does. There's nothing wrong with that. But the remembrance of it makes room for an occurrence again, beyond the personality's overview from this level up, as opposed from that another higher state level downward. I really wish you well with that one. It's a wonderful experience, that's for sure. The second question is, when we become aware of those energetic walls that we have created, why does it seem that there is a more physical quality to it? Primarily, I think it occurs because our initial engagement in the womb and after the womb is quite physical. Our emotions relate to physical responses, physical engagement with life. The way we think protects our emotions, which protect, theoretically, at least, the idea that something has touched us physically, emotionally, mentally, in a way that is uncomfortable for us. As we grow, we run into this again. There's a level of discomfort, one could say, in finding out that we are not perfect. No big surprise, but when it touches us inside and we recognize that we have a level of vulnerability in this, we suddenly are touched differently than just a rapid, automatic verbal engagement. Oh, yes, I know I'm not perfect, that kind of thing. It touches us in a way that makes us feel a tiny bit vulnerable. I said tiny bit, sometimes more. It's okay to be vulnerable. But we need reassurance. It's true. And our reassurance quotients come out of our beginnings and our vulnerabilities way before we make sense of things. How we come up with meanings are quite rudimentary at first. And sometimes we maintain those throughout all our lives. And this is very vulnerable for us. Hard for us. Understanding that others have these as well is not as bad as ours, or not as great as ours. All of this reflexive defensive structure is just part of the deal that we come up with to help us feel a little bit better. Listen to how you engage with others. It implies that you're still learning. How you think you should be directing your learning curve is where we run into some difficulties from time to time. But that wall that lies within is a protective wall. And we do not understand, first of all, that we're an energetic being, and that's all energy, and it is attuned to certain frequencies that come up when we're engaging with tonal effects, verbally, emotionally, internally, and externally. And they stimulate how we think about things and how things have to be valued by us. This is not so simple, as I said before. But the value that we are on these planes is unusual. As you grow, as we all grow, some of those early trainings are still there, even if you think you've worked them all out and you're perfect at it. Not true. They're there because from time to time you might need them. And that's a conundrum. Because if that statement is true, then the statement that you will use them from the point of view that you think, naturally, because that's how we have to function, is necessary for the purpose of being valued again. This is where it's difficult for many folks. In India, there's a tremendous amount of flexibility with respect to people who actually walk around the street, basically acting and sometimes being spiritually engaged by definition. They perceive energy to some degree inside themselves and believe that, like all of us, we have an inside track about some kind of higher place. They're the only ones that can figure it all out. It's not true. It's a relationship with perception. The personality is secondary. It's the perceiver. Energy occurs, then it's perceived. You get my drift? I have a pair of glasses. The glasses are made by somebody. I have to perceive them and put them on. That's my personality tool that does that. There are levels that relate to us personally that we get acquainted with eventually as a personality. It's an energetic form. We have it around us. But we hold it tight. It's like a wall. It's tight. And we perceive it. And with the intensity that we perceive it, energy will come in to make that intensity even stronger, because we're perceiving it stronger. Softening that intensity down is very helpful. Kindness is extremely helpful, and it's difficult. Understanding that others are growing too, and are growing through similar places to any of us who have grown a little bit. And if you're really honest with yourself, changing the form that you believe is the most important form in the universe, that's called the personality, by the way, doesn't make any sense to us until we begin to see it with respect and understand, that's all I could do. This is all I can under these circumstances. Okay, these are not the same circumstances, but there's a reflex there. The reflex is to be valued. I'm being nice. This evaluation business creates tremendous intensity within for the purpose of being more comfortable. And it ends up, at least sometimes more hurtful to others. Being kind to others is not an easy deal. Being kind to yourself is even somewhat difficult because you don't realize the intensity that you garner as value hurts you. Why? Good question. I'm glad you asked it. Because when you have that intensity, energy comes into you relative to that intensity. Because it wants to show you, my perspective, wants to show you how things are within you that you believe is the apex of existence. It's the reason why you use these things. This is normal for all of us. Each of us have our own inklings. So, it's not about this is the right way, that's the right way, this is the only way, this is that, and that's all bad. And it's not like that. It's movement. Movement towards a fusion, which is softer, more gentle, more respectful, but still seen through the eyes of these planes, because that's the personality tool that we've cultivated. Perceiving some of these gaps and places and seeing how we function from time to time, it's like lighting up inside. And it's not a verbalization thing. It's a recognizing thing. We have recognition. We recognize how vulnerable we are if we don't have exactly the same images that we had in our early life. Hard to make some sense of. I totally understand that and absolutely would agree. So what I would suggest is, though, if you happen to see those spaces, don't use your magnifying glasses too much. Just see where you can. Soften it down. When you see the criticism, when you see the embellishment, soften it down. And gently continue to live day to day. Engage. There's all kinds of things you'll see. Some you'll like, some not so much. Later on, the stuff you like today, you won't like that much. Sometimes you'll find yourself acting in the same way you did when you were earlier in your life. Don't miss it. Recognize it's still in there. That's a clue. If and only if you actually need it, and most times you don't. But the reflexes are very strong. That I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a personality tool that we use here on these planes for the purpose, unknown or known to you. It relates directly to some kind of evaluation based on your concept of how others should see you, or you should see them, or you should see you, or they, or you should be. Go slow with this. The energy itself from a higher state, outside the realm, kinda, of how you believe it should be, and is, or is, will soften and give you a different perspective. The subtlety is seen better because now you're watching for it. It will come in ways that will not be appropriate to your version of how they should come in. But it will be subtle, but it will be there. Soon, you'll become attuned to perceiving some subtleties. Look out. The personality will mask that and will mimic it. That's how it works. That's how it's so difficult in the East for many who do have energy increases. They walk around as if they're really important now. I don't see any different there in the East than here. Many people walk around as if they're very important. It's the nature of what they need to be so that they can feel valued, because they're so fearful of not being valued by those who live here on these planes. Absolutely okay. It's where we are. Thank you very much for these questions, Chris. They're lovely and subtle. And it's about 22, so I'll go to another question from, I'll take them as they come in. Natalie Taylor from Ottawa. I'm wondering about how hard it is to be kind to ourselves and why that is so. Also noticing a potential relationship between that and the tendency towards escapism or various kinds, whether watching too much TV or reading too much fiction. Some answers to this are pretty obvious. She does not mention them. And yet making changes in these patterns is kind of difficult. Is living life in ourselves from moment to moment really that hard? She says, I know this is a rather stupid question, but there's a real one in there somewhere. It's not really a stupid question at all. We all deal with this kind of thing. Look, I have one way to look at some of these things, and of course this is my way, so you figure out your own. In my innocence, I say, if I'm going to be any help here, and I'm a little longer in the tooth than most of you, if I'm going to be any help here, I have to try and keep my body reasonably, not excessively, reasonably healthy, best I can, barring any obvious difficulties. Have to find a balance in my emotional system. This is me talking to me. Then I need to keep my brain active. And as many of you know, active for me is, I enjoy sciences. I enjoy some nonfiction, a lot of nonfiction. Some fiction, I like historical fiction. It reminds me of how our trail has been over the years. History is a very important part of that. You see how well we have not done, and how we find aggression, leadership, generalism, we find it so fascinating. And at the same time, when you're looking at these things, that's keeping your mind functional. I haven't been a tremendous reader of spiritual material. I did a lot of that in the 70s, late 60s. Just to see what was going on in the normalized spiritual world. and also some of the, what would you call it, traditional spiritual backgrounds as well. Met a lot of those folks who were dealing with things in the 70s. Met a few of those people. And I was very curious because I began to realize that some of this material was extremely fascinating. And I began to have a great interest in personalizations, creativity of the human mind. Internal spiritual growth has a lot to do with the experience of it and how it can really help you, and it can also take its toll. As someone said to me at one time, not important who, it's happened more than once, if I change, who will I be? A legitimate question. This was back in the 70s. Imagine, in those old days. And I thought, you will be who you are now. Plus, you might have some wisdom about who you are now. Seeing it, begin to see it from a different angle. How you function from a different angle. This goes very, very, very slow. And then they said, I never thought of it that way. So I read something that cultivates, I'll have to say it out loud, kind of an intellectual bent. If you're interested in who you really are as a physical form, read biology. Read about life. If you're interested in how the universe is, read about physics. Read about astronomy. But remember, as many of us who are older recognize, theories change. When you're reading, read it and try to ask yourself what you think, how your thinking process is about what you're reading. Don't read it like it's the Bible. No offense to the Bible. Read it like as if you're adding something and wondering at the same time if there is more. Read it as if you are learning, as opposed to you have learned and now this is more real, more right. Because it'll come out when you're dealing with other people and talking to them. And if you have read physics in the past, you'll see that there are new ideas now in some places. And there are always new ideas coming up about the personality, for that matter. Certainly, lots of old ideas about spiritual growth. And from sincere people. One of those would be a question coming up by Toshi next time we have a meeting. Very fascinating how people are and how they think. As you have more experience internally, come face to face with your biases and find them wanting because your brain has clicked in to a mode where it is interested in moving past the emotional need to be valued. You have room for understanding that can be internally given. In the meantime, internally given meaning, ideas will come into your head that you know bloomin' well were never yours because you don't have the background to have them. That will be fascinating. Yes, it could be called intuition. It could be called anything. And you'll come up with an idea to call it that because it'll be out of your way of defending how you must be conceived of by others. Normal stuff here. And eventually, you'll begin to see the difference between what you do and what the space that opens up in your mind, even in your emotional recognitions of the things that try to make you valid. Even in them, you will see through them and say, wow, this is interesting. I wonder if anyone else does something similar to these. And the answer will be, oh boy, by the billions. And all along, you always thought that you were the only one who had this or that way of seeing the world. Not real. It's a most fascinating thing, learning how to live inside you with just a little fragment of awareness, but knowing it's just a little fragment of awareness, and that is wonderful. It opens the door towards more, and we are young. And I truly wish all of you so much success with this. You have no idea. It's wonderful. Even a tiny fragment of it. But it doesn't make you any better or worse than anybody else. What it does do, though, leave you open to being helpful from time to time for some that might be interested in growing beyond the personality's construct that is already developed for the purpose of being valued more than others. I wish you well, everybody. Have one heck of a good evening, and we are going to meditate. And now we'll begin to do the balancing and the grounding. Thanks for the questions, and have a good evening.